Hey everyone, welcome to Double OP Segment 1, the show where I review out-of-print manga and comics to tell you if they're worth your time, money, and investment. Today, I am going to be talking about one of my most sought-after mangas of all time, and I finally got it, and that is No Longer Human. Sorry for the glare. These are very shiny covers. No Longer Human, printed by Vertical between 2011 and I believe 2012. It was a very short run, so these became out of print super fast, and they're very sought after manga. Now, No Longer Human is based on the second best-selling Japanese novel of all time by Osamu Dazai, and it is now. There's been different iterations of this story. The author wrote this right after World War II, I believe in 1948. This version is a more modern take. The artist is, the main character is wanting to he becomes a manga artist. And it's actually a really cool interpretation of the story. As you can tell, it's got the actual mangaka. He made himself into the story. He's looking for something to write about in his new manga, and he stumbles across this online diary called No Longer Human. And it's about this guy's life, and it just spirals out of control. Now, the first thing to note is that the art it starts off, it's pretty normal looking, especially at the very start, because it's supposed to be like a happy start of the manga. But then things start to get, see right here, as you can tell, things get dark. And the main character, right here, this is one of my favorite shots. This is when I was like, all right, this is pretty interesting. They're warning for anyone who is underage. There is a lot of sex in this series, a lot of mature themes. There's suicide, and a little side note: the original author Osamu Dazai, I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly, he actually committed suicide with his mistress by drowning shortly after this came out, and I believe he had another book come out, or he didn't finish it and it came out after his death. But he did pass away after writing the original version of this. Now, a lot of you may have heard of the story. Studio Madhouse made a anthology anime series, and the first 4 episodes, they covered this story in their own way. And one of the things I really like what this manga does, is that it'll have a transcript, like a little page taken from the original novel, written in Japanese, and then on the left-hand side, you will have the English right there. And it's really cool because these parts are taken out at a right time, like right when things are starting to get dark, and it happens throughout the entire series. So what's the story about? It's about a young man who doesn't feel like he can relate to anyone. He doesn't feel like he belongs. He is not really depressed, but he doesn't have a lot of feelings. And he calls himself a clown to make people laugh, to people like him, and everything he does is very calculated. So he's very smart, but he's not too smart, so kids still think he's cool. And so he goes on his whole life like this, and he meets a kid at an art school. Right here, I love this. This is supposed to be his dad. I don't believe you ever see his father's full face, but this is a very cool, very subtle, very creepy page. Yeah, right here too. But I'm not going to show anything from the second and third manga, because things do get pretty spoilery, especially after the first novel. After the first book, they really pick up. Now, the question is this worth the money? I got a really good deal on this series. I've seen, listings for volume 2 and 3 going for $500 by themselves, which is ridiculous in my opinion. The story is really good. I read it in one sitting. I highly enjoyed it. But it's not worth what the asking price is. Now, if you can get a deal like I did, if you can find it for $100, maybe $150, I would say snatch it up, because this is probably never going to get reprinted. Vertical has a lot of out of print series, you know, Knights of Sidonia, 7 Billion Needles. This, I'm surprised that their Gundam hardcovers are not out of print either, but they are known to make things go out of print or just let things go out of print, especially smaller series like this, because this didn't, I'm sure this didn't sell very well. It didn't get a lot of traction. They were priced at $10.95, which I think is maybe a little too much, especially for the first volume. The second volume, let's see if it kept the price. Yeah, it kept the price. And then the third one is the thickest volume, but it is such a fast read. I read all 3 of these in probably about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and I really liked it. I don't get scared easily when it comes to movies or reading, but there's very few mangas that actually get underneath my skin, and No Longer Human really got underneath my skin. And at some points I could find myself relating to the main character in a weird way. I have not had a bad life like he has. I have not had I've not even seen a small amount of the amount of trauma that he's gone through. But there are some moments you start off really feeling for him, and then towards the end you kind of think he's an asshole. And this is one of those weird stories that you can't really go into too much detail because it's so short. You know, if I were to review Gundam, I could talk about the first 2 books, and still you have a whole bunch still left to go through. But this is such a short read. My recommendation for you guys, I don't like supporting online scans. I like to actually physically buy stuff. But since this is out of print, I would say if you want to support the artist and support the mangaka and the actual thing, you can buy the Japanese versions for like $20 altogether. I've seen it $20 shipped on eBay. You could buy the Japanese versions and read these online. I do think this is a story that you should read. It is very dark. I don't want to say it's overrated, because I do think it's really good. But it is slightly underrated. See, here's another excerpt. It's pretty good, but it's just one thing. It just shows you how one thing can happen to someone and completely change their life. I believe this is his wife. At the end, there's two women that he kind of, I mean, he has a relationship with a lot of women, but he has 2 main relationships with 2 women, and I believe this is his wife, the one he actually marries. He marries a very sweet girl, very kind girl, the complete opposite of him. But yeah, so my final recommendation is, it's a story that you have to read. It's a story that you should read, but I don't think it's worth the asking price, especially volumes 2 and 3. If you can find a deal on it, find someone who wants to sell to an actual reader and someone who's actually going to enjoy this manga series, pick it up. Snatch it up if you find a good price, but otherwise do not spend $500 on this or $300 on this, or I've seen volume 1 go for $70. Do not do that at all. It's a good series, not worth the price. Anyways, guys, if you want sub, I'll be doing these videos going over out of print manga and recent reads, and I'll be posting a collection video. Once I get a new bookshelf, I have manga and comic books overflowing everywhere. So, but I think the next one I'm going to be doing is 7 Billion Needles, also a vertical series, or maybe Knights of Sidonia. Anyways, guys, thank you, and have a good one.